Hey everyone, it's VM Campos Comic Book Fan. Welcome to the weekly VM Campos Comic Book Club. This is the series where I answer the question, what am I reading this week? For the audio-only version of the podcast, head on over to your favorite podcast app, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and subscribe. Warning, there will be some spoilers because I will actually be going through the comic book somewhat. So you are encouraged to buy the original. Help support your favorite creators by buying their stuff. It's worth it. This is the series where I review a comic book, new or old, for the cover, interior art, plot, and enjoyability of the book. This week I've got the Spider-Man Annual #1 presents Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham from Marvel Comics. This is a bit of an anthology. It's an annual book, so it's got little stories in between the covers. And I'll point out the creators as I get to the various stories. Let's talk about first the cover. So I got one of the regular covers. This is cover 1. There was another variant cover that was kind of cool, but I like this one in the terms of perspective. You got Spider-Ham. You've got some villains coming at him. There's also Spider-Gwen back here. Yep, this book is a parody of the Marvel Universe featuring Spider-Ham. Now, back in my day, I was reading Spider-Ham comics in the late 80s, mostly from a variety of Marvel Tales reprints. So I have a fond memory of Spider-Ham. This is the newer generation of it, which will be interesting as I point this later on. So the cover, I like the cover. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. It's fun. It's cute. You see Spider-Ham triumphant and Spider-Gwen behind him with the various villains. And there's going to be so many puns for the names of these villains, such as the Green Gobbler instead of the Green Goblin. So quality-wise, I like this cover, 4 out of 5. It is a nice perspective, and I like the little bit of detail in some of this shading. It's got sort of like a spot tone shading, and the pose and expression and the scenery, it's cool. I like it, so fun cover. The interior art is also pretty enjoyable. We've got a variety of creators, for example, this recap page. And then we've got the first story, which also has some fun art. It's cartoony, it's cute, it's like the style that I like. This story is written by Jason Latour and art David LaFuente. So Rico Renzi's doing colors again, so that's kind of a cool return to the Spider-Gwen team of Latour and Renzi. And again, look at this art, I like it. There's a Spider-Gwen banging out on the drums, because of course she's a drummer in her dimension. Baddie Brandt, I love her expression. It's really a fun classic, sort of like furry, funny cartoon style. J. Jonah Jackal is hilarious. So that's one of the stories. The other story is written by Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, and Jason Latour, and art by Jason Latour. So Latour, again, he was doing Spider-Gwen, and he did a story here for a few pages. So I love the art on both of the stories presented. It's really evocative, it's fun, it's weird, it's cute, it's very well done, it's modern, there's a lot of colors. There's like a lot of hyperkinetic panel layouts, and it's just hilarious expressions and poses. It's like serious quality in a very unserious story. Couple of stories. I'll give the interior art a 5 out of 5. Very, very enjoyable. The team doing each of them is really good. Unfortunately, we have to then come to 2 criteria that I'm going to rate rather low. We've got the plot. Sigh. I thought the plot was way too depressing. There's like this big existential angst that, like, what is it all about? Is it all a joke? What is existence? And it's kind of depressing. Peter Porker is depressed in various parts of the book, and he's sort of just told to get over it, which isn't the best message nowadays. Like, oh, you're depressed, well, get over it. That's the vibe that I got out of it, unfortunately, which is not cool. But then the story itself also is there's all of these intergalactic machinations going on, and then we see King Cynic, Howard the Duck, talking with Spider-Ham, and again, it's like, what is the point of everything? We're just going to get rebooted again, and we're stretching ourselves too far, and we're a shadow of a copy, and it's like kind of depressing. So if the creators were trying to create a story that was not on the high notes, if it was trying to create a story and a feeling of ennui and depression, okay, it succeeded, but I doubt that they were, because this character is not designed for it. It's a parody. It's a funny animal book. It was part of the Star Comics of the 80s for kids. And we have a rated T for teen on the cover, but I guess with sort of silly characters like this, not to put it down, but, silly characters like this is like way too heavy for the audience that might actually pick it up. I'm going to give the story, both of the stories, a 1 out of 5. They were just not enjoyable. They were not jocular or funny or fun. There were a couple of great little puns with some of the characters' names and such, Spider-Gwen, Meows Morales, and so forth. But just the general, depressive nature of both stories, not enjoyable. I give it a 1 out of 5. And that also goes directly to the enjoyability of the book. I don't know. I'm going to give the book, the enjoyability, also a 1 out of 5. The art is very enjoyable. The panel layouts and everything, that's very enjoyable. And there's a fun pose with a 6-armed Spider-Ham with Spider-Gwen that I love. But it was not an enjoyable read. It was just way too weird. There's a little bit of optimism at the end of the first story, but then on the second story, it's still also weird and depressing. So this is not what I thought I was buying. I thought I was buying a fun throwback book with this joke character that was fun, and instead I get this weird tale of ennui and cynicism. So I give the enjoyability of the book a 1 out of 5. To recap, the cover of the book is fun. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. It's got a great sort of pose and directional lines to really focus your attention on the main character, plus Spider-Gwen. Interior art was very good, a 5 out of 5. I enjoyed the variety of art inside and the dynamic panel layouts and color, very, very nice. The plot, I give it a 1 out of 5. Both stories were just way too pessimistic for my tastes. And therefore the enjoyability of the book is also very low, a 1 out of 5. It is not an enjoyable book, and I love to put enjoyable books in my podcast, after all. There's so many great things to read, why read the stuff that you don't like? So once again, if you'd like to hear the audio-only version of the podcast, head on over to your favorite podcast apps and subscribe. This has been the weekly VM Campos Comic Book Club, and I'll see you next week.